Hi, Alistair. Hi, Alistair. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hi, Alistair.
Hi, Campbell. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
Still celebrating after yesterday?
Yeah, it was a very pleasant afternoon.
Hi, Heidi.
A very pleasant afternoon.
I bet you.
I'm back in business on Wednesday.
Yep. We're just waiting on Dan joining us and a few others, and then we'll
Okay.
see how we get on. I didn't invite a lot of people tonight. It was just, I wanted to have a bit of an informal chat and interview with Dan. Him and I seem to have been talking for so many years now, so I'm sure he'll be joining us shortly.
Okay. You can get rid of this call just a moment.
No problems. Hey, hi Dan, you're on mute, I think.
How you doing, brother?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic.
Looking great, as usual.
Thank you. You too.
You all set for the festive season?
Yes, sir. Well, I guess the truth is I'm never all set, but I'm getting there.
Yeah, yeah. I've still got the big shop to do, but putting that off till a wee bit later in the week.
Yeah, I hear you.
I'll just give it a couple of moments and then we'll get started.
No problem. Let's see here. It's what time is it?
Just coming up
We
on 8 o'clock here. What time is it with you?
it's 12:58. So yeah, 2 minutes to 1.
2 minutes to go.
Yep.
Yep.
How's Maddie and everybody?
Yeah,
Maggie?
she's good. Yeah, she's really good. As she normally does, sitting watching the soap operas at this time of night.
Perfect.
Yeah, she was going to join the call, but she said, "I know it all."
She does. That's for sure.
Yeah, she's certainly a
No,
product of the products.
no fibbing there whatsoever. Gonna have a
I'm
little.
just waiting. Gail joining us. I think I've just admitted her into the room, but I don't quite see her as yet.
Okay. Got to fix the lighting in this room. It's an old world Scotland type room with rock walls and stuff, and it just doesn't light up very well.
What's the weather like?
It's absolutely beautiful, which I'm not happy about. I'm itching to snowmobile, and we have no snow, none.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're forecasting white Christmas. We've had a bit of snow a couple of weekends ago. It was really heavy, and then that turned into torrential rain and gave us a bit of a hard time. But I see Gail there now. She's probably just muted out at the moment. So do you want to kick off? Shall we get started?
Sure.
Okay, the guys that are on the call with us tonight, I've got Heidi on the call. She's working with Gallowglass and Richie Nichol, who's one of our team members. Got Gail, who's really keen to do something. She's got a new brand that she's looking at launching called 51 and Counting, mainly aimed at women. which I think is a great idea. And I've got Alistair Morrison on the call. I really appreciate Alistair coming on. He's probably still recovering because he's heavily involved with Glasgow Rangers, who won the Scottish League Cup yesterday, and probably still celebrating a wee bit with that. But I'm sure he'll maybe mention that a bit later on. The great pleasure to meet Alistair, a few other business things we were doing in my day job, and we got to know each other quite well. And I was telling him all about this, so he said, "Well, I'd like to know more. You never know; I might have some people that might be interested in this." But I guess tonight, first of all, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us, especially so close to Christmas. I hope you'll find the evening informative and of great help. Certainly, if you or anyone you speak with after this is serious about their health and well-being, which, as everybody in the call knows, has been very topical, given what we've been through since COVID-19 came our way. And for me, there's always hope. There's real hope. And there always is, as long as you've got a positive mindset. And with that in mind, it really is a great privilege to be joined this evening for the next hour, maybe more, maybe a bit less, depending on how many questions we get, with the founder of Synergy Worldwide and my great friend, Dan Higginson. Dan's probably one of the most forward-thinking people I've ever met, but he'll tell you it's not all been plain sailing. Back in the 1990s, Dan had great vision to set up a company that would teach people to live, love, and leave a legacy. And in 1999, his vision was realised by the launch of Synergy Worldwide in Japan. So powerful was Dan's vision that a year later, Synergy was acquired by an industry giant, Nature Sunshine. Nature Sunshine products are traded in the NASDAQ. They later became a Forbes Top 100 company to work for in the USA. And they were also the first company, my goodness, it must be 50 odd years ago now, Dan, to encapsulate herbs. And, a little bit later on in the call, if we've got the time, we'll talk about the business model and why it can be so successful. And of course, deal with the elephant in the room. There always is one, but more of that later. But for now, let's hear from Dan, and then we'll get into why I certainly think, and I know Dan shares this, every human on this planet today needs to know about our products. So, Dan, with that, over to you.
Hey, thanks, Campbell. It's an honor to be on here tonight. Appreciate your friendship, and we go back a long ways. We've blessed a lot of lives together. You did forget one L. It's to live, love, learn, and leave a legacy. So that learn is very important because we're worldwide, and so we need to understand each other's culture, the way we think, the way we do business, etc. But tonight's an honor. It's an honor to meet all of you. It's an honor to talk about something I'm passionate about. I come from a family full of heart disease. My dad had quadruple open heart surgery at age 53. I'm going to be 53 March 31st. And I lost my granddad, a Purple Heart Award winner, fought in the World War II across the Rhine River on Patton's front lines, was wounded in action, and ended up dying at 45 of a massive heart attack right when he got home from the war. And so this stuff that we talk about today, business is business. We all can choose a sector and get passionate about it and go win. But I know of no other business that allows you to truly live, love, learn, and leave a legacy. I own Protection Self-Storage. I own Valley Collision. When you wreck your car, you can take it to my shop. They get it fixed. When you need someplace to rent, you're moving, or you have heirlooms, I have storage units. Well, there's no satisfaction in that for me. That's just a good, sound financial decision. Synergy is a lot bigger. Synergy is about understanding the opportunity in the marketplace, seeing the convergence of it, and understanding that like-minded people to come together, not only promote health, wealth, and wisdom, but literally change thousands of lives. And now Synergy has changed over 1 million lives. We've done over $1.5 billion in one product that Campbell's going to talk to me about here in a minute, called ProArginine Plus. And when you look at what's going on in our world today, when you look at the unsettled nature, when you look at the wars in Hamas and in Ukraine and in Russia, and you really try to dive in and understand the challenges that we have, the open borders here in the United States of America, inflation at an unprecedented level, the average American carrying debt at a level that's unheard of, banks on the verge of collapse. When these things are real, and when they're real, you have to really look at you as an individual, and you have to say to yourself, what trend do I want to be a part of? Do I want to be a part of a trend that truly changes people's health and gives them an opportunity to make substantial income? As Campbell knows, there's people in Synergy Worldwide that make over $250,000 a month. There's also people in Synergy Worldwide that make $100 a month. The bottom line is it's based on your choice. It's based on how you want to build this business. It's based on what you want to do and how you want to duplicate it. And that's really what it comes down to. So tonight, I hope I can answer all the questions they have for me as we talk about a company that I'm passionate about, going on my 25th year, founded it in 1999, February the 18th. And coming up on February the 18th of 2024, will be my 25th year in business. And we're in 28 markets. We bless the lives of literally millions of people. And I'm just grateful and honored that Campbell gave me the opportunity to get on and talk a little bit about Synergy and some of the key elements. So I'll turn it back to you.
That's great, Dan. Thanks for that. And, you know, you've already mentioned Pro-Arginine, and I guess it's only fitting that we should kick off with the flagship product. You know, after all, it was Pro-Arginine back in 2008 when I first heard about it, when I was working in Spain, and then had a call with you. And at the time, you know, I was quite skeptical. I'd just had a heart attack, which was badly misdiagnosed, and I ended up going private, ended up having triple bypass surgery. And at the time when you and I spoke, and I filled you in the story, you said, well, look, you know, you don't need me to convince you. We're going to run some clinical studies on this product at a heart transplant clinic in Victorville in California. And, you know, I also believe that today I owe the longevity of my triple bypass surgery to Pro-Arginine Plus. So with that in mind, Dan, why do you think Pro-Arginine is absolutely the best L-arginine food supplement in the market today? You know what my answer would be, given the heart attack, but what would you say to people, men in particular, that are now over 40 and in the danger zone, and women who are approaching 50 and passing the menopause? What would the key message be to them to take this product?
Wow, that's a 2-hour conversation, but I can tell you in just a few minutes. They're finding plaque in 8, 9-year-old children now. For the first time in our history, they're finding plaque in children. And what do we count it for? Well, everything changed from the 70s going forward with the processed food, the things that we eat, the diets, the fast-paced lives, the McDonald's, all the things that are out there that we just have at our fingertips that we can get something to eat really quickly. And more importantly, I would say, Campbell, is the number one killer in the world is cardiovascular disease. It kills more people. It kills more people than cancer, diabetes, and prescription drugs combined. So when I look at that, I decided that I wanted to get into that realm. When I got into the realm of L-arginine, I realized that there was a Nobel Prize in Medicine awarded to 2 scientists back in 1998 for the discovery of a simple amino acid, L-arginine, converting to nitric oxide in the human body. And as you know, from there, many, many drugs have been born. Blood pressure drugs, sexual dysfunction drugs, Viagra, Cialis, we can go on and on and on and on. But what inspired me was, how do we find out how that product can be time released in the human body? Is that possible? Because the traditional L-arginine, when you take it, you get a 3-second undulation through all the vessels. That's no different than if you have chest pain and you go to the hospital and they put nitroglycerin under your tongue. It opens up the pathways really quickly. So the first thing they do, so they have time to discover if you have any blockages or any challenges. Well, I wanted to take it to another step. So I took it down to Victorville, California, the High Desert Institute of Cardiac Health. Dr. Suliam was one of the top cardiologists in the world. He was talking to people all around the world, educating people on the new technologies, new stent release medicines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And when we brought up the fact that we had this purple powder called Pro-Arginine, he actually kind of laughed us out of the room on the first go round. He was just like, you got to be kidding me, guys. I'm dealing with medically managed people in this institute, and you're talking about taking 5 elemental grams of L-arginine twice a day, and you're talking about doing it through a drink and liquid water. Are you kidding me? Long story short, we convinced him to give it a 120-day go, and he did. They took 33 congestive heart failure patients. These are radically medically managed patients on 13 to 14 medications, some with black foot disease, some putting their will together. A dear friend of mine, I can say this, and it's not a HIPAA violation because he went on YouTube and said it himself, but a gentleman and a good friend of mine named Angelo Ceci, his wife, he actually approached her and asked her what he could do to help her prepare, and she was devastated. She was devastated he was talking about death. She was devastated that she didn't know how to do the taxes. She was devastated she didn't know what to do, what he wanted said about him in his funeral, all these things that become a reality. And to make a long story short, he was one of the participants in this study. Of that study, 32 patients completed it. One patient dropped out due to loose stool, which I thought, unfortunate for her, but she did. Those other 32 that completed the study improved in 17 key medical markers across the board drastically. Good cholesterol, bad cholesterol, hypertension, neuropathy, all these different medical markers all improved drastically. From that, we were listed in the physician's desk reference in every medical, it's the medical Bible here in the United States, and it's in every medical office in America. And in there it says, quote, ProArginine Plus is the highest tested L-arginine supplement in the world, period. So when we talk about synergy, when we talk about ProArginine, we're in a league of our own. There's nobody even close that we know of, not even remotely close. And if you go to PubMed.gov and you search up L-arginine, you're going to see over 400 published pages, thousands and thousands and thousands of articles talking about L-arginine. But what we did is we took Dr. Joseph Prendergast, who had utilized it in his practice as an endocrinologist for 19 years, and we put it to test with Stanford. There's a book by Dr. John Cook called No More Heart Disease. One of the Nobel laureates wrote a book called, I can't remember the title of it, Campbell. Can you remember the title of that book?
Well, I was going to say No More Heart Disease, but that's John Cook's book. It was Louis Ignarro that wrote the book. The name of the book is off the top of my head at the moment, Dan.
Yeah, me too. I'm sorry. Anyway,
yeah.
Many books have been published, but what we found when we met with Dr. Prendergast, and we have 33 biochemists, scientists, and doctors on staff at our institution, is that when they collaborated and we put our health sciences division with him, they realized that if they added L-citrulline, vitamin K, vitamin D, and resveratrol at certain levels, that L-citrulline would actually time release the benefits of L-arginine for up to 12 hours. So instead of taking 3 drops of nitroglycerin under your tongue and open up your pathways, or taking a regular L-arginine supplement, opening up your pathways for a moment, we're doing this undulation in the endothelial wall for up to 12 hours. So we tell people to take it twice a day, once when they wake up in the morning, once at 4 in the afternoon. But I can tell you that in my 25 years, and I say this very humbly and very grateful and full of gratitude, as I've never seen a product ever have I seen a product that has changed humanity more than this product. And the side effects of this product are increased sexual performance, recovery, endurance. Some of the greatest world-class athletes in the world here in America utilize this product. In Europe, they utilize this product. A lot of them won't even tell you they take the product because they feel like they have such a competitive advantage. People in the UFC, the NFL, Major League Baseball, to name a few. The European cycling team. So many groups that have absolutely utilized L-arginine from a sports enhancement and recovery. And so that's just hitting the iceberg of ProArginine. But let's move on, or we'll be here all day.
Yeah, well, the 2 books, No More Heart Disease is Ignarro's, and The Cardiovascular Cure is John P. Cook's book. And I have to say, John P. Cook's book's always my go-to book. If anybody doubts anything, I'll say, well, just have a look at this. This guy wrote that before we actually developed ProArginine and our L-arginine product. But that's great, Dan. I want to just very briefly touch on back in the noughties, as we called it. We only had 3 products back then. We had ProArginine Plus, we had Mystify, and we had Vitalife, or as it was called back then, liquid chlorophyll. And I'm sure most people who are interested in health will know what chlorophyll is. One of the reasons why we recommended that was build, boost, and circulate. And as you were taking ProArginine and it was starting to, as Dr. Joe Prendergast used to say, remodel your arteries, as some of that waste was being disposed of, Mystify with its anti-inflammatory powers and Vitalife with its alkaline were great, 2 great products to take alongside. Is there anything you would add to that in those 2 products, Dan? Why they're good products on their own?
Absolutely. Well, again, 90% of my competitors Think about this for a minute. This is a true statement. 90% of my competitors do not test their product. 75% don't even manufacture their own product. Now, we've taken many products off the shelf and ran them through testing, where we found all kinds of incredibly challenging things like Cryptosporidium, E. coli, Giardia, to name a few, right? We've seen heavy metals, et cetera, et cetera. And so I would say this: when you can build the blood and scaffolding, right, with proarginine and get the oxygen, we call it vitamin O. There's no such thing as vitamin O. That's what we call it, because when you get that oxygenation, you get amazing things. When you come behind that with boosting the immune system with Mystify, you get the most potent anthocyanin and antioxidant treatment you can put in your body. And we've tested that against all elixirs on the market at Brunswick Laboratories in an independent study. Ours came back #1 in catechins, which is live food value. Came back #1 in anthocyanin, which is the most potent antioxidant you can get. It came back in #1 in ORAC, which is your consumption levels. And this is just one product that we hardly ever even talk about anymore, because proarginine and super beets and the gut microbiome health and all those things as we continue in health sciences. The second thing I want to mention is, of those competitors that are out there that don't even manufacture their own products or test them, I can tell you they don't do studies, right? We have the Hughes Center for Innovation, where we're actually running clinical studies on human beings, not mice, people that come in off the streets, people that are on prescription drugs. We keep them on them, and then we put them on a protocol. We finished 13 clinicals. We have over 13 patent pendings. And that's just because that's what we choose to do. And I think that's remarkable, because nobody else does it. And I find that just gratifying. Every morning I wake up and know that in 28 countries, 500,000 people are eating one of my products and feeling better, looking better, and generating an income for their families. And that's what the legacy is all about with me, is that's what it's all about. So build, boost, and circulate. To wrap it up, we build the scaffolding with both proarginine and with chlorophyll. But chlorophyll, if you were to take a blood, a poker, and poke your finger and put a little squeegee of blood on a petri dish and look under it next to chlorophyllin, it almost looks identical. And the why that is chlorophyll cleanses the blood. It cleanses the scaffolding of the blood. It cleanses the cell. And so when you have proarginine, chlorophyll, and Mystify coming together, we just call it build, boost, and circulate. Build the blood scaffolding, boost the immune system, circulate it to the cells.
Well, Dan, you mentioned looking better, feeling better, and retaining, I call it internal anti-aging. Maggie's not on the call tonight, and I know Gail's on the call, and Gail's been working on 51 and counting for women. And I don't think Maggie would mind too much if I said, well, she's probably 61 and counting, but she doesn't look it. And she goes through more Mystify than anybody I know. She's 4 bottles every month and a proarginine every day. And you should put women half her age to shame. She's just brilliant on it. So thanks for that on E9. That explains why the 3 products work so well together. Before we get into talking about some of the newer products, because I did mention earlier in the noughties, we really only had these 3 products, and now we've got a fantastic range of products. And that's really playing into where we need to be looking at taking the business over the next 5 or 6 years. But E9 is probably one of the best natural energy drinks on the market. And a lot of the professional sports people that we rub shoulders with, and amateur sports people, if they take E9 in combination with proarginine, they'll come back and tell you it kind of turbocharges their workouts. But one of the things that we haven't got, and maybe a bit controversial, Dan, is why it doesn't say E9's a natural energy drink or an energy drink on the label. Just talks about it being a food supplement.
Yeah, it's a great question. That's something I'll actually have to ask. It is 100% natural. It has no sugar whatsoever. That's why people don't get the crash on it. If you go take a Red Bull or a Monster or some of these energy drinks that are out there killing people, they'll take them, feel great for about a half an hour at work, and then they're looking for their next cup of coffee or something, because they get an absolute adrenal drop so quickly and such a horrible crash. E9 has no sugar, but it has all of the bees and the mawang and the things that absolutely add natural energy. And that's a great question, though, on the natural on the label. I'm not sure why that's not on there, and I'll ask that question. It might be a European regulated thing. I'm not
Could be.
sure.
Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, Dan, we've got some great new products now, and one that's really of great interest is Collagen Plus and Collagen Beauty. We know that it's of great interest to women, in particular, women over 40, where their ability to produce collagen drops by about 30%. We know that reduction in collagen leads to things like brittle nails, thinning hair, and the dreaded wrinkles. And, you know, us guys are just as bad. But what would your message to women who are already maybe buying collagen to get them, to encourage them to buy Synergy's collagen rather than what they're buying at the moment?
Well, obviously, it goes back to testing, right? I mean, testing is so critical in today's world with the raw materials. Let me just give you an example. We have farms all over the world, Synergy controlled, right? We have organic farms that if you go to the store and buy an organic produce, I can tell you 95% of the time it's not organic. It's certified organic, but it's not organic. And here's why. Because whoever's sharing that water with you, whoever's doing that same irrigation canal, if they're upstream or downstream and they're spraying pesticides on their crop, that gets leached into the water. So we take it even a step further on our testing, and we have our own internal water source that we're not even relied on with the city. We actually have our own in-house water source that reverse osmosis does all the cleansing internally, and we do all of our wash downs with that because we can't control the outside environment, right? So when a woman asks me about collagen, I say, well, first look at my wife. She'll tell you her nails are growing faster than they've ever grown, and she's 52 years old. She said her hair has never been healthier. Her skin has never looked more vibrant. And she is just my personal thing, kind of like your Maggie. I see it and I'm just amazed by it. But it's just because of the way that we process that collagen, where we get that collagen, how we introduce it to the community, and how it's tested is why I would say there's no collagen that can even compete. Mm-hmm. And I say that across the board on all our products.
Yeah. The testing thing's so important. You know, how many times have we heard that statement said? We don't guess, we test. And we know that I think Pro-Arginine is tested something like 262 times before it arrives on somebody's doorstep. So that for me, I probably don't make as much of that as maybe what I'd like to do, because, you know, what got me into this was heart disease. And you know that better than anybody, Dan. And certainly if I was going to recommend any product to any person who was concerned about cardiovascular disease, I couldn't recommend any other product other than Pro-Arginine. And it's all about the testing and the sourcing of all the raw materials that goes into making that product as special and as unique as what it is, because you're right, there's no other product like it. A couple of other ones, vitamin D3, you know, I think one of the things that we picked up when Dr. Joe was still alive is that there was a number of studies done in the States, and, you know, people who were D3 deficient were mainly people who had immigrated into our country. People, you know, there was a great program on yesterday where, you know, one of the top chefs was in Glasgow looking at different cultures. And she started off with an Italian family, then she moved to a Pakistani family. And it was great to see the old city shining the way it was shining. Probably not as bright as what it was shining at Hampden when Alistair was there yesterday watching his team win the cup. But it was just great. And it made me think that a lot of these people that have come from countries like Pakistan and India who now live and work here, originally they were farmers. They were in the sunshine all day. And now these kids are all sitting in offices, they're not getting sunlight, they're eating fast foods. And we know there was a study done over in the States that said as much as 85% of them were D3 deficient, and being D3 deficient is not a good place to be. Anything you would add to that, Dan?
Yeah, it's incredible. Just go and do the research. Look at the vitamin D3, specifically vitamin D3, and look at what happens to somebody that gets the proper dosages of vitamin D3. And you take Pro-Arginine, for instance, you get 5,000 elemental grams, right? We also get your daily intake of vitamin 3, and we added vitamin D3 because we felt like we could get you another 20,000. That's great. You don't want too much, right? You don't want to overdo vitamin D3 because that can also become a toxic level. but you want to be in that exact recommended dosage. And if you're doing that, it's incredible what happens to you from an energy standpoint, but more importantly, from the inside that we don't know about. What's going on in the mitochondria on the inside? Vitamin D3 is incredible at warding off challenges, health challenges, immune problems, etc. And so I don't go a day without it, period.
Well, I know Gail's on the call, and one of the things that Gail's been looking at over the last few months is our omega-3, and she believes that it's one of the most potent in the market. I think the thing that made her realise to begin with was the size of the capsules. So that meant there was a lot of omega-3 in the capsules. But I guess this is probably a question along the lines of, again, why our D3, why our omega-3 get the testing, but you can buy omega-3. It's readily available in the high street. So again, it's why should we? What's the message to people, particularly when they've not heard of Synergy? They'll have heard of omega-3, but they won't have heard of ours. So that's a key message to get across to them, because the one thing they'll say, if these products are so good, why haven't I heard of them?
Right. Well, because number one, it's a people-to-people business, right? They're only going to hear from the walking billboards, which are you guys. If you were to say that question in Asia, every single person that you'd come in contact with knows Synergy, right? Because we're a household name there. The crazy thing about omega-3s is they have to be tested at the highest of highest levels. When I go clear back to the old days, when I first came out with my first omega product, it was shark liver oil, believe it or not. Literally shark liver oil. And it was based on these sharks that cycle like salmon, a very unique shark. And I got thinking about that. Where's most of the metals coming from? Right? Our oceans, unfortunately. Pollution, all these places. And when you get these omegas going, you have to make sure that they are pure. I mean, pure. And that's why it's vitally important. Again, it just comes down to the simple question is 70% of all my competitors, I think it's 80, but I'm going to say 70 to be safe, do not even manufacture their own product or test. And that's really it. Guys, there was an article in the USA Today where they took down all these supplements that were at Walmart and GNC in these places. They tested them, and a large percentage didn't even meet label claim. Some had metal in them, some had other toxicity in them, and they didn't even meet label claim. So for me, that was it. I didn't have to, because I'm a trusting guy. If I go down to Walmart and I see something Synergy doesn't carry, which we don't carry everything. Years ago, we didn't have CoQ10. I'd walk right in GNC, and the first CoQ10 I see that had a fancy label on, I'd buy it. Boy, after that article came out, it scared me to death. It's really, you got to know where you're sourcing these products. And if you don't buy them from Synergy, make sure you ask them where they're tested. Do you have third-party validation? What can you share with me? Because that's critically important.
Well, you mentioned CoQ10 there, and one of the things that I learned again through heart disease and dealing with that and having to take statins, I think it's probably key to know that anybody that's taking a statin drug, and there's millions of people across the planet taking them, some need them, some I believe probably don't, but that's just an opinion. But one of the reasons why we should take CoQ10 if you're taking statins is because of the side effects, muscle pain, and a number of other side effects. And I was thinking, Dan, maybe in the new year, we could go to Dr. Jim Sandberg and get Dr. Jim to do a specific cardiovascular call like this, where we can deal with that subject in a bit more detail and how these amazing products can help. I'll say it, I know you can't, but greatly reduce somebody's risk of having a heart attack or a stroke. And indeed, even this weekend again, unfortunately, we saw another Premier League footballer in England collapse on the pitch from a cardiac arrest. One of the things I see a lot of, which probably rankles with me a little bit, is that there's a lot of people out there talking about getting people tested. But once they've got them tested, what do they do next? Because most people will have only really one option, being put on pharmaceutical drugs for the rest of their life, or at worst, as in my case, the scalpel. And indeed, it can be even worse than that, as we've seen from high-profile deaths live on television when a sports person collapses. So I think it may be an idea. I don't know what you think about that, Dan. Maybe a good idea to do something with Dr. Jim on board for next year to talk in a bit more detail, and particularly sports people and how the products can help.
Absolutely. Yeah. And he loves doing that. So that'd be great. Let's set it up.
And lastly, on the products, I've just got really two things. We've just brought out Immune Booster just over a year ago, maybe two, and Pro 360 Superfood Beats this year. Both of these products support the body naturally to help produce nitric oxide. So I guess the question was, why do you think we need both? And indeed, we've got Pro Arginine, which is the number one. So we've got another couple of products there that naturally produce nitric oxide. So why do you think we need both of them, Dan? Or three
That's
of
great.
them?
Great question. I think from our health sciences standpoint, I've shared with you this many times, Campbell, that as the founder of Synergy Worldwide, I'll never be second place. I'm never, ever, ever, ever going to think that because ProArginine is the number one product in the world, that I'm going to stop. I'm always going to continue to move forward to benefit better technologies, absorption in the body, etc. Our health sciences team came back and said, by adding Super Beats with ProArginine, we're going to take that up another 17, 18% or something like that. I don't remember the exact percentage, but it was going to improve the outcome even more by utilizing those. And the same with ProArginine Immune, because the ProArginine Immune has more secondary ingredients and no L-citrulline, so it has more secondary ingredients that boost the immune system on the total body health instead of just the cardiovascular health, instead of just heart health. And so I rely on these scientists that are 3 times smarter than me, 3 times better than me, and are well educated to tell me where we need to go. When I let them know where we want to go, and then I leave it up to them to go do their testing and do all their trials and so forth, and come back with solutions. And the solution they've come back with recently is the Super Beats and, of course, ProArginine Immune.
Yeah, and I've taken both, and I have to say I love the Super Beats. Super tasting product. It's really good. We've got a couple other products to talk about before we move into some questions that we've been sent in. And I know Heidi's on the call, and Heidi's been into skincare. She's a masseuse, and she wants to know a little bit more about our Lamara skincare range. So we've talked a lot about products that can help with internal anti-aging, and now this is a product that's external anti-aging. I just wanted a few comments from you and why the skincare range is so good, and why ladies in particular should be sitting up and taking note of this product.
Well, first of all, the largest sector in skincare, believe it or not, was men, because men have never been in, right? Men have never went out and bought anti-aging skincare. Well, they are now. Something like $20 billion that I saw on some report. And I thought, wow, you got to be kidding me. I had no idea. But to answer her question, you had generation 1 skincare, right? You had generation 2, generation 3. That's where you got introduced into like the acids, the retin-A, the retinols, et cetera, et cetera. You put them on, they burn the hell out of your face. They start to pill, and you get, lighter wrinkles. The challenge with those is about 3 in 10 women, my understanding, and I'm just going based off of a gal that shared this information with me, who is a very, very keen on skincare and studies it as a biochemist. She just basically said the challenge with the retin-A and retinol was it worked. The problem is so many women had allergic reaction, and so they couldn't use it. And then you had generation 3 and 4 come along, and that's where you actually penetrated deep into the skin cell. And if you can imagine for a minute rubbing skincare on, right? My wife used to come home back in the 90s with Bath and Body Works, and I'd come home from work and I'd smell this strong apple scent, and I didn't like it at all. And gotten out of the tub and greased her whole body down with this Bath and Body Works without generation 1 skincare, did absolutely nothing other than make her feel better and smell better. To her. To me, I didn't like it, right? So I said, honey, it's too strong of a smell. Fast forward to now, all she uses is Lamara. And why? Because now she's seeing that product ingredient can actually penetrate the epidermis, the dermis, go down to the keratinocyte of the cell, and actually fix it. So if you picture it this way, go out and get a terrible sunburn. What happens to your body? It starts sloughing off. It's painful as heck. And then it gets all dried out, and then it peels, and then your body's working its butt off to regenerate. But the challenge is here where I live, the number one of the most dangerous forms of cancer in Utah, because we're at a high desert altitude state, is skin cancer. And so it's this quandary of, hey, do I put skin sunscreen on? And then you got this group over here saying, absolutely not. That is the contributor to it. And then you say, well, did the people of the old days wear sunscreen? No, they didn't. And anyway, we go back and forth. What I care about is that when we go down there, there's a little dimer, thymine dimer inside that cell that gets broken. When you sunburn over and over, you permanently damaged it. What this does is goes in and replenishes and repairs at the cellular level. That's the difference. And that's why, and it's paraben free. There's no toxicity. And that's why everybody, men and women, should be on Lamaro.
Well, I can't argue with that, because on the news earlier today was the fact that it's Brad Pitt's 60th birthday. And I'm not going to say Brad Pitt uses Lamara, because I don't know. But he did talk about what he does, and he washes his face every night, and he puts some sort of wonderful skincare range on, which the girls on news said it was probably about £1,000 an ounce, but he didn't say what it was. But you're right. And I remember actually doing a bit of research a few years ago, and L'Oreal, which is one of the big ones over here, their men's skincare range sales were going absolutely up through the roof. So you're absolutely right. Lastly, I think before we move into the questions, Dan, and if anybody else has thought of anything else they'd like to ask, I've got some questions here that were sent in ahead of the call. I've picked a few up from chat, and I've managed to grab them, and we'll go through them in a minute. But I think it would be remiss of me not to mention the work that Dr. Matthew Tripp done at the Hughes Centre for Research and Innovation, or the Hughes Centre for Innovation and Research. I probably get it round the wrong way, and I know Dr. Joseph Lamb now who heads that up, but I think one of the most exciting times in the last 10 years was when we launched our Purify microbiome kit. And those of you that watched and have been following doctors over here, like Dr. Michael Mosley, they're constantly talking about the microbiome and what it means to have a healthy gut. The one thing I know is that this kit was developed under Dr. Matthew Tripp's guidance. He's an absolute expert in the field of gut health. And it's one kit with 5 products in it that can help basically reset your gut health and bacteria back to where it was before we messed it up by eating the wrong food and drinking too much alcohol and smoking and doing all the things that we shouldn't be doing, but it just happens to be quite good fun doing it. So it may be another one, Dan, that would be subject of a separate call maybe next year, but I just wanted you to say a few words about how that was developed and what the real benefits of a kit like that are.
Yeah, absolutely. That one's been so studied. It looks very similar to the high desert study. Really have spent a lot of time on the microbiome. There's no doubt right now that they've proven 94% of all disease starts in your gut. When your gut microbiome's out of whack, that's where disease thrives. It's like in an acidic environment, no different. In an alkaline environment where disease doesn't thrive, right? And so when we talk about the microbiome that Dr. Tripp did, he talked about killing it, replacing it, and rejuvenating it, right? That's what he talked about, is how do we hit the reset button on that? And we've got clinicals now that are just absolutely incredible, impressive. A few simple products that you take and you can reset that with Biome DTX, the Biome Shake, etc. And all it's doing is going in there and balancing and resetting that gut. And it's vitally important because they're calling the gut now the next brain, the second brain, right? And when you hear it called the second brain, you hear that 94% of all disease starts in the gut. And you know that our company was ahead of the trend by 2 years before anybody even started talking about it. It should teach you a lot about our health sciences division and our 33 biochemists, scientists, and doctors on staff that are doing nothing every day but researching the latest and greatest technologies from, you name it, Shilajit that's growing in rocks and oozing out of things to whatever. We're testing it ahead of everybody else. We were so far ahead on skincare that our biochemist, Mark Ward at the time, this is way back on our old skincare line, said that we were, in his opinion, 10 years ahead of the competition, because most of them wanted to turn them into drugs, right? Most of the people that knew about the technologies wanted to drugs like dimerosine, the children of the moon story. I mean, I could go on and on and on in my 25 years of what I've learned, but it's really important. So my statement as the founder was always, how do I teach people to cover from the brain to the big toe? That's what I want to know. I want to know, how do I get a healthy environment from the brain to the big toe that can enhance people's lives and give a 120-day or 90-day risk-free money-back guarantee to try it. Who does that? I don't know that. And so, I mean, that's empty boxes. It's incredible. And we do it because we don't get our products back because our products work.
Well, I know I'm going to have another go with our Purify kit. I've already done it a couple of times. The great thing is you really only need to do it a couple of times a year. And we've got lots of guidance to help people do it properly. So as I said to Maggie the other day, once we get into the new year, I'm doing another Purify gut reset, which will be one small step for Campbell, one giant leap for my waistline again. And interestingly enough, I remember the conference in Torino where, one of the doctors on stage, I think it was Clinton, had said yo-yo dieting is caused by people not repairing the gut in the first place. It's a bit like trying to bail a rowing boat out that's got holes in it without repairing the holes. And I thought that was a great analogy that Clinton drew on the stage all those years ago. I think it was 2018 we were there, Dan.
Yeah. Crazy.
Anyway, I've got some questions, and then we'll get to the point where we can hopefully wrap this up, maybe ahead of the hour, but we've got about 20 minutes left. So let me go through some of these questions, and maybe being a bit selfish at the moment to keep the timing on, guys, because we could get into debates and we won't get all the questions answered. So I'll field the questions, and if anybody's got something they want to add at the end, we'll try and open things up for a bit of a debate. But Gail's asked a question about what products you would recommend and what would your message be to women 51 and counting, and why?
Yeah, that's a great question. Obviously, Pro-Arginine's an absolute no-brainer. I think the gut microbiome is really critical. And of course, collagen. Collagen is, I hate to add this, but actually liquid chlorophyll, collagen, and Pro-Arginine. If I had to go, I mean, pick any 51-year-old and say, let's run on this health challenge and let's compete against everybody in the world. That's the three I would recommend, but I'd also definitely get that microbiome reset.
That's great. And this is a bit of a controversial one. You and I have talked about this before. The late Dan Hammer, who was a physiologist over in Chicago, and sadly we lost him earlier this year to cancer. But Dan had done a lot of research with professional teams, professional athletes, and he'd done some analysis on, I'll always get these words wrong, aerobic and anaerobic digestion and how Pro-Arginine works. And one of the formulas that they worked out was that you could be up to 15 times fitter than your rivals who are not taking Pro-Arginine. Have you heard this one before, Dan?
I have. I heard it from Dan. I don't have it in our health sciences. I wish Dan would have shared it with our health sciences group, his content data. I've heard it anywhere from 15 to 18 times.
Yeah.
I can personally, this is all I can tell you. We have no inside data in our health sciences division on that. But I can tell you of world-class athletes like Haloti Ngata, over 300 pound, one of the strongest defensive linemen in the NFL. Mariano Rivera, the closer for the Yankees. Matt Palmer, a pitcher for the Angels. Ted Littigy, gold medalist in the downhill skiing in the U.S. Olympics. On and on. I can tell you about athletes that I learned about secretly were using the product. These people didn't even tell me. I learned about it, one through a pastor, one through Men's Health Journal. I picked up in LA, and it said Ted Ligety, Kobe Bryant, and John Stockton's nutritional platform. And I'm just reading to see what these guys take, because let's be honest, Kobe Bryant, John Stockton, and Ted Ligety are three of the best athletes in the world. So I'm looking at it, and Ted Ligety says, I don't go a day in my life without Pro-Arginine Plus because I recover so much quicker. I'm so much more cognitive focused. And I found that interesting. And then, of course, about the European cycling team, Campbell,
Yeah.
But I can tell you, my son played college baseball. And I can tell you from his own personal experience, when he got serious in 2020 during COVID and got his scholarship, went down there for 2021 and 2022, he put on 32 pounds of muscle. He improved his speed and endurance recovery by about 12 hours. The standard is 48 to 72 hours. After you've had a complete tear cycle of the muscles and you're trying to get the oxygen back in and the protein to rebuild. So I've witnessed it personally. NFL player by the name of Porter Gustin, also a phenom at University of Southern California in football, had his entire team taking it because of what they were seeing that was happening to him personally. So I don't have that same data that Dan had, and I'm actually going to reach out to his wife and see if I can't get that data.
Yeah.
Dan was one of the greatest guys I know, but I never seen it published on our side at all. So I don't have any real answer for that.
Okay, well, I'll do a bit of digging here because Dan used to share an awful lot of stuff with me, and I'll see what I can find, because I think people who are either real proper professional trainers or sports scientists, when they read this formula, they'll understand it more than I will. Because I'm not a PhD, but these guys will get it. So if we can find that, that would be absolutely great. But I think one of the key messages is back to the guarantee. Why not just try it and prove it to yourself? Because while people are thinking about it, top athletes that you've just mentioned, I know the Norwegian Winter Olympic team's been using it for years, but never claimed it because it gives them a competitive advantage, a legal competitive advantage, because it's featured in the Cologne list, which means it's safe for athletes to take without worrying about failing a dope test.
Correct. That's the biggest thing. And it's life altering. I wished I could share some of the names. I'm not allowed to. I'm not paying these athletes is why. And I won't pay these athletes to endorse it. I just don't believe in that. But I mean, we're talking some of the best UFC guys. We're talking about some of the best bodybuilders. It just gives them a huge competitive advantage. Dr. Sandberg's the guy to talk to about that, because firsthand he understands it at such a micro level, and he gets down to the absolute reasoning with these athletes, and it's just really cool, really remarkable.
Listen, I know why you're really not telling people the names of the athletes, because I remember back in 2010 when a certain Davy Hay, the Haymaker world champion boxer, was at his best. I seen him picking up a box of Pro Arginine, and he basically just said, "You know what you'll get if you tell anybody."
Awesome.
But as we've been talking about that, there's another chat just come in from Darren. He actually said he's proved this to be true. He said maybe not 15 times, but he actually put his daughter on Pro Arginine for 3 months. She's playing for one of the professional teams up in the Central Belt of Scotland at the moment. And after 3 months, they compared her metrics, because they measure these football players with these things in their back and goodness knows what. And after 3 months, her numbers were much higher than some of the other squad members that weren't taking Pro Arginine, and some of them were 3 and 4 years older than her. So he's proven it to himself. But as I said earlier, instead of just looking for evidence all the time, try it and see how you get on, and you'll notice a big difference. Just another couple of questions, and then we'll probably wrap this up with the tough one at the end. Or the Anita, who's been in cosmetic surgery for a number of years, she's always been a big fan of Pro Arginine. Anita lost her husband. He was a commando during his time in the services, and he died from a heart attack. He was only 45, and that was what attracted Anita to the products. But she's also interested in the healing properties of Pro Arginine, wound healing in particular, obviously because she's been involved in cosmetic surgery, and she's just asking about why that should be. Why would Pro Arginine be a product that could help you recover quicker?
Oh, that's a great question, Anita. Thank you. And it's something I'm very, very passionate about. I'm going to tell you my personal story, then I'm going to tell you real analytical data. But my dad suffered as a diabetic after his quadruple open heart surgery. They cut off 2 toes, then they cut off his foot, then they cut off his leg. He went through 24 hyperbaric chambers to get the wound healing. The problem with diabetes, once they cut your foot off, is very difficult to heal. Very, very difficult to heal, because premature damage has been done. But also, as a diabetic, even if you get your diabetic numbers in complete order, it's very, very, very difficult for the internal tissue to start regrowing healthy tissue, bond, and then get you healthy. My father finally succumbed to his son, Dan Higginson, and started utilizing Pro Arginine absolutely religiously, 4 scoops a day. In exactly 2.5 weeks, after months of hyperbaric chamber, my dad fully healed on his skin lesions and what they call diabetic ulcers. I share this with you because I witnessed that personally. 27 days in the hospital with my father during COVID when nobody else was allowed to visit. Not even my other brothers could visit my father. I was there. So I know for a fact what that does. Let me tell you from real study at the High Desert Institute of Cardiac Health, that wasn't one of their key metrics, but tremendous wound healing went on with people in the facility that had these types of lesions, Blackfoot. There was a couple in there that Dr. Jim told me about that I never met that were actually literally on the verge of amputation. And not only did they fully recover, but they got the pink back in their skin. They got full health. And the reason for that, Anita, is that when proargine converts to nitric oxide we call vitamin O, we call it oxygen. When it starts undulating all those vessels and it starts to create a healthy endothelial wall, which is that little membrane, that little teeny mucous membrane inside the artery, if that nicks and the bad cholesterol starts hitting it, then it starts sticking like Velcro. The way that they explained it to me was with wound healing is it keeps that slippery substance in those vessels and creates such a crazy amount of oxygen that it actually pulls the blood to the wounded area. So I don't care if it's a simple nick on the hand or an amputated toe, it'll start really focusing and bringing the energy, which our body's full of electricity, also to that area to start compounding that healing effect. And so that's one of my favorite things about proarginine, to be honest with you, is the hundreds of people I've personally met outside of my own father and outside of myself. Campbell knows I was in a tragic accident on my snowmobile last year. I went off a cliff and I didn't know there was a cliff there, but it was foggy and I ended up free falling. And my son actually saved my life, but I had contusions and cuts all over my body. And it was amazing to me what proarginine did for me in that recovery. Amazing. And that happened personally. So I just witnessed it time and time again. And in all the countries I've traveled, I always meet somebody that's struggling with wound healing, that's diabetic, that's got all these challenges. And to see what it does for them is just remarkable.
That's brilliant. Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know, I've said, I think all I can say about proarginine. I know fine well from having my annual bloods done because I'm a high risk heart patient. You know, my GPs are really happy with the blood tests that I get. My blood pressure's fine, my cholesterol levels are fine. And in fact, I had a call the other week there from the surgery. And they always tell you that we'll give you a ring if there's something wrong. So when the phone rang, I thought, oh, one of your markers is out. I said, what is it? They said, actually, your kidney function test. I said, well, what's wrong with it? They said, absolutely nothing. It's just a lot higher than it should be for somebody at your age. So it's doing really well. And it was Dan Hammer, actually, that had told me that was probably all down to proarginine. So one of the things that I want everybody that's listening tonight, whilst we've cited proarginine a million times tonight and how wonderful this product is, it's not a snake oil. It has to be used properly. And because of the way that it's been synergistically developed, it's what makes it so good and why it's the only product in the physician's desk reference. And I think I just wanted to make that point before we move on to a final couple of questions, Dan.
Yeah, great.
So Heidi's asked another one. Which products are best for the lymphatic system? And a final question, which I'll just give you them both now. So Heidi wants to know which products are best for the lymphatic system. And a final question from Gail. Given that we're widely still unknown, we haven't even scratched the scratch here in the UK and Europe yet, but what's the key message to ditch their current supplements and preferred products and get them to switch to Synergy products? So ditch and switch to Synergy from Gail and Heidi and lymphatic system.
Yeah, so the lymphatic system, the number one product in the world for that's your personal body, right? It's movement. And unfortunately, in today's world, we're sitting at our computers all day long. We're not getting up and stretching very often. But for the lymphatic system, the lymphatic system's actually I would say proarginine would have to be the number one product, again, because you get all of the oxygen, you get all of the blood movement, and you're going to get a lot of the dumping. And so I'd say for the lymphatic system, me personally, it'd be proarginine. Dr. Jim would probably tell you the same. And I'm not sure what health sciences would tell you. I could be completely wrong because I really haven't studied the lymphatic system, like most people. But I would guarantee you that from a total health standpoint, from a lymphatic, I would think that liquid chlorophyll and pro-arginine would be the two.
Okay. That's great, Heidi. I hope that answers your question. So I guess I said at the beginning of this, we were going to move into the end and the elephant in the room. We've covered a lot about our products tonight, and I really appreciate your wisdom and the information you've shared with us tonight, Dan. But the elephant in the room's this pyramid selling. No matter how hard I've tried over the years to tackle this, all the stock answers, it's illegal, all the blah, blah, blah. Folks still think that a model where people create a chain of people all doing the same thing is pyramid selling. So it's really, how do you tackle this? And do you think it's maybe time that some of the industry giants, in particular, a comment we got from Neil Johnson, he's sort of saying, Dan, isn't your sales model based on Avon, but for health? Why don't we make more of this, especially when our current CEO built a multi-million-dollar business in Europe for Avon? So how would you deal with all that, Dan? And what do you think about maybe the industry giants doing a bit more to help with these messages?
Well, first of all, that's my favorite question. No joke. The first thing I say to folk that ask me that is, who do you work for? And they tell me. And I say, what's your role? And they tell me. And I say, who's your boss? And they tell me. And I say, that's the pyramid scheme. The pyramid scheme is, as the founder and CEO of Synergy till 2008, nobody made more money than me, period. Didn't matter on bonus grids or nothing. If they made bonus, so did I. My vice president of sales, Stu Rudder, and my vice president, Dan Norman, had a team. And those team members were marketing director, sales director, customer service director. They did not make more money than Dan or Stu. That's the pyramid scheme. When someone says that to me, I just laugh out loud, because here's the deal. If you're in the insurance business, there's 16 different chains of people taking money before you get to your final client, right? You have the adjusters, you have the insurance, you have the processors, you have all the, it's just a whole chain of people that are getting a small percentage. So I call it the greatest business model in the world. I can tell you it's changing drastically too. It's better than it was 10 years ago when Campbell and I first started talking about these issues, because now it's a certified accredited course at a lot of major universities. You can actually take network marketing courses and get degrees in it. And Gifford Pinchot actually did an accredited curriculum for it. So it's changing. It's unbelievable. But what I say to people is, what's the difference between Campbell inviting a few friends on this call tonight, learning about a business, shaping that opportunity, become the CEO of his own entity, and if you go and do something positive, that he gets a small percentage of that for introducing you to the business. Let's talk about influencers. Let's talk about these quacks on the internet. 90% of them are a bunch of has-beens, nobodies, but they got in and they friended every single person and followed every single person. Then they started saying things that meant stuff. Now there's great influencers. Some of my best friends are influencers, but there's a lot of quack influencers. They get paid a ginormous amount every time you hit like on their little social media account. They get a little percentage. And the whole chain of events happens all the way down through all their different social media accounts. So when someone asks me that, I just blow it off. To answer the question on the second hand, Terrence Moorhead was at Avon. He had a very large group that he was responsible for, I believe, in Asia. I believe that's where he was stationed, maybe some in Texas as well. But we're doing an incredible job now of showing what that looks like with our new back office system that you now have, where you have the opportunity to get 25% elite rebate right to you right now, paid weekly, just for introducing somebody to the product, whether they hit it on your social media site, whether they hit it, called you personally on the phone, whether they went to the back office and put in your ID number. It doesn't matter. You get triggered that commission. And it's the same way in real estate. It's the same way in insurance. It's the same way in life. But the real pyramid scheme is, who do you work for? Because I guarantee you don't make more than your boss.
Yeah.
That's how I answer it. I answer it just like that every time.
Well, there you hear it, folks. We've got a few minutes left. If anybody's got a question or would like to ask Dan something direct after what you've heard, then by all means, just let me know and I'll open up the mic and let you ask the questions. See a lot of people scribbling notes, Dan. Nope. Well, all I can say is a huge thanks to everybody in the call tonight, but especially to you, Dan, for giving up your valuable time. And I really appreciate you coming on tonight to share your words of wisdom with certainly Alistair and Heidi and Gail and Darren and Neil, who's over in Italy. He did ask a few other questions about, he actually said, I'm being a bit of a pain in the backside. He actually said arse, but I didn't want to say that, and I just have. But he wanted to ask some questions about people who were well known using their products, and I think he went through a lot of them, albeit we know most of them have been in the United States. Mentioned a couple over here, the Norwegian Winter Olympics team, and of course it was Team IAM or Team EAM who were the European cycling team. And interestingly enough, as you mentioned them a couple of times, I think it was about 18 months after they started using our products, they picked up, I think it was 3 stage finishes and 1 stage winner in the Tour de France. So and there's some great videos out there on YouTube that you can find these guys talking about why they took the products and how good they were. So with that, Dan, you maybe want to say some closing words. I'll certainly wish everybody a very happy Christmas, prosperous New Year, and by all means, if you didn't want to ask questions tonight, send them in by email, and if I can't answer them, I'll get Dan to pick them up and we'll answer them together, and we'll probably have another meeting just like this early in the new year to get us started. So I'll hand it back to you, Dan, to close the meeting.
Hey, thank you, guys. Hey, thanks for investing your time to learn a little bit more about Synergy, its products, its services. Just know this, at the end of the day, we truly are a company that teaches people how to live. What does that mean? Tomorrow's not promised, guys. We all have had tragic episodes in our lives where something shocking happens. We lose a loved one, a friend, a family member. So live today as though tomorrow's not coming. And you just become a better spouse, a better husband. It's just something I learned from Dr. Covey many years ago. To love is the same, right? Let's break down all racial barriers, religious barriers. Synergy is a family. We're representing the #1 products in the world, bringing the most wholesome approach to humanity that there is. And I have friends of every walk of life, atheists, anti-agonists, Christians, Buddhists, Muslims, all of them. And I can name their names, Rashid over in Indonesia and Tomioka in Japan. They all have different beliefs, but guess what? They all believe in synergy. And we have a wonderful environment. To learn, grow, and develop is just to simply sharpen your saw every day. Learn about these products, utilize these products, become a product of the product, be a testimony, a walking billboard of the product. And lastly is really focusing on the compensation plan. I'm just telling you, when you know that you can get a 25% elite rebate or fast start bonus shipped to you weekly by enrolling somebody or having somebody to simply want to try Proarginine with a 90-day risk-free, no questions asked, empty box money back guarantee, that's remarkable. When you know that you only have to build 2 sales organizations, one on your left side, one on your right side, and you get paid about 7.5% of your lesser leg. So if you got 1,000 down this leg and you got 700 down this leg, you know exactly what you're going to be paid. And then you look at those people you personally sponsored. Say I sponsor Campbell and Anita, and I helped Campbell achieve a 4,000 CV week leg, and he's getting a $400 commission check. I match that 100%. If Anita does 20,000 and she gets a $2,000 commission check, I match that 2,000 100%. It's that simple. It's the simplest comp plan ever written. For the people that think it's complicated, because they went to the policies and procedures and read it. It's really this simple. Sponsor 2 people, one on your left, one on your right, and help them achieve their dreams. Help them get what they want. The more you help them, the more you receive, because you match their income 100% by personally sponsoring them. If you do that, live, love, and learn, I promise you 50, 100, 150 years from now, I hope that we all live, is we're going to leave a legacy. And if you look at the time and the lifespan of the average individual now, it keeps lengthening, which is concerning governments because they're going bankrupt. But the people that utilize nutrition and exercise in their life are living longer. And as they live longer, that puts a big taxing system on government retirement programs, et cetera. And so at the end of the day, control your environment. Leave your legacy. Be remembered for something really special. And I can tell you, Campbell doesn't know this, but whenever I hear from him or Maggie, a simple gratitude, because of what he went through back in the 90s with triple bypass surgery to where he is today, that in itself keeps me going. When I get the call from Richard Loxton, that's legally blind and homeless, and we get him in his own house through Synergy because he took this business opportunity serious, that makes me happy. When I take a Diane Levitt who went through a horrible divorce and had a wicker shelf full of bills and was taking the bottom bill off that was 90 days past due and paying it and teaching piano lessons and going and getting old wood boxes and selling them to individuals. And here we are just literally 20 years later, and she's a multi-millionaire residually with fancy houses in 2 different states that I know of, or 2 different locations. That's a win. Now, for me, Campbell knows me. I live in a beautiful home. I drive a Ford truck. I could drive any car on the planet I want to. I choose a Ford truck. Why? Because I want to be higher, bigger, and stronger if I get in an accident. That's just how I am. I hunt, I fish, I pull boats, I pull horses, snowmobiles. I have to have a truck. It doesn't matter how you live. It doesn't matter what you have. All that matters is how people remember you. But the reason I shared those 3 stories is because that's a literal homeless person and a lady that went through a nasty divorce named Diane Levitt, who Campbell knows personally. She just got remarried. I forget the new name. And this is one of the happiest people on this earth. And she's been able to give back and do more for humanity because she made a choice to get into Synergy and to drive an organization full of character with health, wealth, and wisdom products, and changed her life and many, many, many others. And so that's the choice we all have. We have that choice. And if you make the choice to do it, you're going to have the support of Campbell, myself, corporate. We have managers in country. These people are there to support you in your endeavors. And that's our job. Our job is to get out of your way, give you the best products in the world, give you the best comp plan in the world, give you a company with 75 years of history, debt-free, and let you make a decision to run the way you want to run. The way you win in this business is simple duplication. I always tell people, enroll 2 people in 14 days and help them do the exact same thing. In 3 months, you're going to be financially independent. What do I mean by that? It doesn't mean you're rich. It just means that you are no longer out of pocket in Synergy business. I don't know many businesses you can start and be profitable in 3 months. I can't even think of them. I mean, window washing business costs you 15 to 20 grand just to get your materials and your ladders and your workers' comp and all those things. You're backed by the bond of Synergy Worldwide with these products. These products are insured. You are simply investing $250 or euros or whatever it is for your country into a business that you now own, have the same taxable write-offs benefits as any other state of the union. And you have the ability to go out and earn $500 a month, $5,000 a month, $500,000 a month. It's a personal choice. Believe me, there's somebody that's not in Synergy now after 25 years, some young kid that's going to get tied into ChatBTBQ and all this other stuff, and he's going to do something crazy. And out of influencing alone, he's going to make over $500,000 a month. I believe that because I've seen the old school guys that have made a couple $100,000 a month, $100,000 a month, $50,000 a month, out there right now still doing belly to belly. And that's awesome because they're the ones that last a long time because they build those internal relationships and those bonds, the friendships like Campbell and I have. But the young whippersnappers are coming in with all this new technology. You watch and see. Some of these are going to erupt, and they're going to have customers all over the globe that they never meet, never shake hands with, and then we make a 25% elite rebate. So it's all about what you want in this business and how you want it. Thanks so much for your time, guys. I appreciate it. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, and to you, Merry Christmas, and all the best to you and the family. Have a great one. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.